Today, I has a box. Welcome back to the channel, guys. You've seen the thumbnail now, and if you've been paying attention recently, you already know what this is. I seen this thing get released, and you guys know how I feel about micro monster trucks, so I got pretty excited. This is the Max Smasher from FMS. Built basically like a crawler from what I can tell, portal axles, comparative to the SCX24 and the Element 1/24 scale Enduro, and many other micro crawlers out there, 1/24 scale. This one has been designed to look more like a micro monster truck like we're used to. Today we're going to get it unboxed, check it out. We're going to compare it to my other two trucks, my custom built 3D printed truck, as well as the FullThrottleRC Rampart truck that I have, and see how it stacks up. I already saw in the box, which I'm pretty interested to check out. This thing has a 2-speed transmission in it. It is brushed with a 130 size brush motor. I'm very interested in the diff in this thing. You know, I run the SCX24 axles on my monster truck now, and those worm gears don't give us the same rollout and speed as something with a ring and pinion like this. So really interested to see how this works. But to start, we got to see how it works from scratch, how it comes from the factory. I went with the blue. This is supposed to mimic the Bigfoot trucks, I believe. In the box, we come with a whole lot of stuff. It looks like some gears, some suspension tuning parts actually, a couple of tools like a T-wrench and a battery charger, as well as the transmitter. Nothing super fancy here. This feels kind of, I don't want to call it cheap, but definitely lightweight. As well, in the box came the instruction manual and some stickers. Based on what I can tell, this isn't your normal type of sticker. This kind of looks like one of those water transferable decals like you'd see in a scale kit. I'm not gonna worry about that. I kind of like just the solid blue look. I don't really want any decals on it anyway. So let's talk about the truck. First, I want to talk about the body. Obviously modeled off of the 70s Ford F-250, like the Bigfoot trucks. This is a hard plastic body. This isn't no Lexan. Actually pretty nice. I like the flat blue paint to it. Gives it a pretty cool look. And one of my favorite things about it, no body clips. Actually 2 clips on the bottom of the chassis here in the front. And we just click like that, and same thing in the rear. And the whole body comes off. Really like that. There's a plug here for some lights. We take that out and the body gets removed, and we can check out the chassis. Onto that chassis, you can see we have a plastic subframe chassis, basically like a normal ladder frame, but this one's plastic, not metal. We have an ESC and receiver combo in the front, just like a lot of these micro trucks. Battery in the middle here, and you can see there's 2 servos in this thing. We have a servo on the front axle, and there's a servo in the middle of the chassis here. That is for that 2-speed transmission we talked about a little while ago, which I'm super excited to try out and see how it works. Transmission mounted in the center, similar as well to a lot of the micro trucks. Looks like a 3-gear transmission. That nice size 130 motor, a little bigger than a lot of the motors you see in an SCX24 or something. Moving down to the suspension, we have what they call a 4-link, but actually it's kind of like a 2-link with a wishbone on top. Exactly what the SCX24 has as well. Really nice big shocks that feel kind of springy. I'm assuming not oil filled, but they are nice, have a lot of travel, and they feel pretty good for this size. To the axles, like I mentioned, we have a portal axle here. You normally wouldn't see a portal axle in a real solid axle monster truck, but this gives us a little extra height, a little extra ground clearance for those crawling purposes. But it also helps with the look of the truck, the scale look of a monster truck. I mentioned the ring and pinion differential, and this thing actually has a differential. If you can see, I'm spinning one wheel one way and the other is spinning the other way. There's actually plastic lockout gears included as well, which is pretty cool, I believe. I'm gonna leave the diff in just for testing out the stock purposes, obviously. On to the wheel and tires. This is pretty interesting because, as you know, with my Micro Monster truck and the Rampart truck, I have some custom tires that I kind of figured out throughout my build. I use a 3D printed wheel with the plastic rubbery tires from the Spin Master models. Nothing rubber like this. This is a full rubber tire. It's not as wide as the tires I'll run. You can see here on my Micro Monster truck how the tire compares. Obviously the Spin Master tire is a good bit wider, but definitely not as soft at all. And the FMS tire is actually a little taller as well. Curious to see how these work out and if it's something that maybe we can get a set to put on my truck and see how it works out. I'm noticing some screws in the back of the wheel here, and it's making me wonder if this is a beadlock wheel, if it would be easy to pull these tires off. Sure enough, that's a beadlock wheel. Pulled the screws out, tire comes straight out. That's really cool. We could actually, if we wanted, put a foam inside of there. There's a ring inside here that you can see is kind of difficult to get out, but we could pull that ring out and put a foam in if we wanted, so we didn't have such squishy tires. Or I could reuse this tire for something else, like my truck, so to say. Really cool little design that I did not realize was coming with this truck, actually. Speaking of the wheels, and the last little neat detail I noticed with this truck, before we go and test this thing out, when we slide the wheels back on, they use a 5.5 millimeter nut to hold the wheels on, which is common for a micro truck like this. The problem is your normal T-wrench with the 5.5 millimeter side won't actually fit far enough to tighten that wheel nut on. It's a deeper dish wheel, so what do? Well, FMS has included this little tool. This is a 5.5 millimeter nut driver. You can see the hole on the back here. We're just gonna stick that in there, start tightening up. And once it starts to get snug and we can't turn it by hand anymore, we can pull our hex driver out and use that for a little extra leverage to finish tightening that wheel nut. Really cool, really thoughtful thing to include, to notice that, hey, these wheels are kind of deep. To get the look we want, we need to include a tool that allows people to take them off. Well, the only thing left to do now is try this thing out, see how it compares to some of my other Micro Monster trucks. Okay, this thing is actually pretty cool. I know before the video even started, most of you probably knew that I wasn't going to be interested in the crawling capabilities of it at all. I'm a Micro Monster truck guy, as you can see. But I will say, in first gear or low gear, whatever they're calling it, this thing seems pretty capable crawling wise. On the transmitter here, there's a channel 3 switch. All the way to the rear is low or first gear. In the middle is actually neutral. You can pull a throttle and it won't go anywhere. And then all the way to the front is second gear or high. And that's what I stay in mostly because I'm a monster truck guy, I like some speed. But it does seem pretty capable in that low gear, crawling wise. You could see I climbed over some of the ramps instead of jumping them before I switched into second gear. I'm kind of raving about this little 2-speed here. I really like it. I am super interested in putting a brushless system in this thing. I know it's probably not made for that, but I have a bunch of brushless stuff left over from some of my other builds, and I'll probably try to throw something in there just to see what it'll do. Speed wise though, actually with the brush motor in the high gear, it's not too bad. I would say it's comparable to my custom 3D printed micro monster truck, mainly due to those SCX 24 axles that slow this truck down a bit. I'm actually kind of curious how these FMS axles would fare on my truck. I think that would work pretty well actually. It's definitely not as fast as the Rampart truck. This thing is crazy fast speed wise, but I think it's a pretty good middle ground. It could use a little more speed, which is why I'm interested in trying out a brushless system like I said, but definitely really good to get your hands on and have some fun indoors. Besides speed, performance wise, handling and stuff, the truck turned really quickly and really well. It was able to handle all of my ramps pretty well, as you saw. Even landing, jumping was really nice. I think switching to a brushless system, adding a battery towards the rear will kind of balance it out a little better and help it land smoothly. But you saw I was able to kind of even backflip the truck off of my backflip ramp, although not the cleanest and smoothest backflip. The wheelbase is slightly longer than most of the solid axle trucks, which probably lends to that with my ramp, which is built for these trucks. All in all though, great little truck. Suspension, handling, appearance, everything I'm really liking. Like I said, this 2-speed transmission is probably my favorite part about the truck. We're gonna see more of this thing soon. I'm probably gonna pull a transmission apart and replace the electronics, go through and see what I can fit on the truck. Yeah, likely break some parts, but that's all the fun in it to me. I've been saying since the beginning, since I first started building this truck, that I hope the manufacturer would take the idea and run with it and build a micro solid axle monster truck. And although this isn't specifically marketed as a bashing monster truck, this is extremely close. I'm so happy to see somebody take that idea and do something with it. Yes, it can still be a crawler, but switch to that high gear and you have a monster truck. This is definitely the closest thing you can get to a ready to run, buy it out the box micro solid axle monster truck, and it is more than capable, more than sufficient to fit that category. The price point as well, at just over $150 shipped to my house, compared to the next best thing as this FuryTech Rampart truck, you really can't beat it. It's a pretty solid truck. I'm interested to see what upgrades I'll be able to find for this thing. And I'm really glad to add it to the fleet. I'm realizing that I have 3 micro monster trucks now. Who would have guessed when I first started building this thing that this is where we'd be at? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're interested in this truck, I'll drop a link down below. Not sponsored or anything. I just like the truck. If you're interested in either of these other 2 trucks, I'll have links for those down below as well. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you want to see more micro monster truck action. You can throw together some nice little freestyle and racing runs now. And as always, thanks again for watching. Peace.